Hello, welcome to our next session. And in this session today, we are going to practice applying the strategies that we've learned in the reading section. All right. Okay. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay. Now, before we go on and see the questions one by one, let's have a little quick review of the types of questions that we've learned together. So remember, in the reading section of the TOEFL iBT, there are two types of questions: the basic information and inferencing questions and the reading to learn questions, generally, right? Now, in each of these category, there are more questions, of course. And here we have factual information, negative factual, inference, rhetorical, vocabulary questions, and so on. And on the reading to learn question types, we have prose summary and fill in the table. Now, if you already forgot about these types of questions, make sure to take a look at the lesson from the previous one. All right. Okay. So let's take a look at each of the question examples and try to practice the strategies. Here we go. The first one is the basic information and inferencing question. And the first type will be factual information questions. And remember, there are 2 to 5 questions per passage for this, making it pretty common in terms of frequency to appear in a reading section of TOEFL iBT. Therefore, you need to practice quite often for this type of questions. Now, if you'd like additional time to do this, you can pause the video and try to answer the questions. And don't forget to apply the strategy. And for this type, the strategy is the triple S. Do you remember the triple S? What's the first one? Select, scan, and skim. Okay, now go ahead and answer the question. So, what's your answer? Okay, let's see. For this question, as I told you, the strategy would be the triple S. And the first S is to select the keyword in the question to help you find the information you need in the passage. And here the keyword is wild beasts, right? So combine the keyword with another keyword or phrase from each of the options, because this question is asking you which one is true. Now, there are 2 approaches to answer this question. First one is to directly try to find which one is the true one, or you can also go with the elimination approach. Now, elimination approach means you check the options one by one to make sure that it's wrong based on the information from the passage. And that's what we'd like to try now. So first one with the option A. Let's see if it's wrong or right. So the key phrase here would be stem matter. So wild bees and stem matter would be the keywords to help you find the information you need. So, and if you are scanning, remember the second S is to scan, to look for the keyword in the passage. Now, if you scan it, you'll find that stem matter is located here. And here, based on the information highlighted, zebras eat the most stem matter, making A is wrong, right? Because A says that wild bees eat more stem matter than zebras, while the correct information is the opposite. Now, let's move on to B. Here, the key phrase is large food. Now, let's try to scan and look for large food. Oh yeah, by the way, A was wrong, right? Now, let's try to scan for large food. Oh, there it is. So this is the information about ruminants, and ruminants, wild beast is an example of ruminants. And then here, based on the information, the ruminants, the food passes their gut only slowly. So you can imagine that large food would be very difficult for them to digest based on that information. And here's another piece of information about the question. Larger particles cannot pass through their stomach until they have been chewed down to size. So this means that B is not exactly correct, because it says they can digest large food if the food is of a high quality. Well, it doesn't say so. They cannot digest it. It cannot pass through, all right, unless they eat it when it's been chewed down to size by other animals or by the nature, perhaps. Now, let's go on and take a look at D here. The key phrase is quantity of rainfall is low. So wild beasts are likely to choose low quality food to eat in periods when the quantity of rainfall is low. So let's try to scan for the information we need. There it is. So when the quantity of rainfall is low, that is synonymous, or it has the same meaning or information as this highlighted sentence, which is food is in short supply, right? What happens if the quantity of rainfall is low? The food is in short supply. Now, let's continue and see the information. Now, yeah, this is incorrect because it's saying that it can derive more energy out of the same food. So that means they don't, what is that? They don't change their diet. They don't change their food to low quality food because they derive more energy out of the same food, which is high quality food, right? All right, so after you eliminate the wrong options, you can then confidently choose the last one remaining. And if you would like to analyze also why the option C is the answer, is because um, if you read the passage, you'll find out that they cannot, chew large food, um, and and they eat the same food. So in order to be able to feed, they have to choose an area in which the vegetations or their food has been worn down, so it's ready for them to digest. Okay, so that's factual information question example. Now, let's see negative factual information question example. This type of question can be up to 2 questions per set or per passage. So, which of the following questions about Richard Bell's research is not answered in paragraph 1? So this is the paragraph 1. And the strategy for this is same as the one for factual information. The difference is you have to check all of them one by one to be sure. Okay, so now go ahead and try to apply the strategy. So have you got the answer? Let's see if that's the right one. Okay, now, so if you apply the triple S strategy, then the keywords or phrase would be for the option A, eat much fruit. Okay, so is there any information about which of the herbivores eats much fruit? So let's try to scan for these keywords in the passage. And if you do that, oh, there it is. Fruits and eat much of this. So this question is answered. Okay, and the answer is Thompson's gazelles eat much of these. All right, now, so A is incorrect because it is answered. Now, let's see if B's question is not answered. Which part of the plants do wild bees prefer to eat? So the keywords here would be these uh, red ones, right? Now let's try the scheme for wild bees prefer to eat. Okay, oh, there it is. Wild bees, one of our keywords, and eat the most leaves. So this information answers this question, making B incorrect. Now let's take a look at C here. The question is asking where the study of herbivores uh, took place. So the keyword will be where, so it's likely going to be name of a place, right? And the study. So where was the study? Let's scan. Oh, there it is. This is the name of the place. And if you check and read carefully or skimming it, you can identify that this is where the study took place. So C is also incorrect. Now, that means the correct answer is D, because it's the last one remaining, right? But let's see why this is the right answer. So if you see here, there is some mention, or the passage talks about it, but as you can see here, they did not study buffalo, but there's no information why they didn't do that, making this an unanswered question. All right. Okay. Moving on. The next one is the inference questions, and this is the one that requires you to draw a logical conclusion. Okay. So use the information you got from the passage and make a conclusion. Try to draw the logical connection between the information is so that you can come up with a conclusion to answer the question. All right, so let's see here. Paragraph 2 suggests that which of the following is one of the most important factors in determining differences in feeding preferences of East African herbivores. All right, so remember, draw a logical conclusion and be careful with false and unpresented information. So the other options would either be a false piece of information or an unpresented piece of information. Okay, go ahead and answer the question. Finished? Let's see if your answer is correct. So here, the keyword that we need to highlight to help us find the bits of information to help us make the conclusion is feeding preferences. Okay, so we need to identify one of the most important factors, okay, in determining or identifying differences in feeding preferences of East African herbivores. So now, all of the options, most of them, they are mentioned. There's a mention about each of the options, but the question is asking one of the most important factor. So what you need to do is to try to look at the whole part of the passage or the paragraph and try to make a conclusion of the number one or the most important one. Okay, and if you see here, the ones that are highlighted in red, digestive systems, and then digestive system is something related to stomach, by the way, and non-ruminants, ruminants passes their gut, so stomach again, there's a mention of another gut over here, another stomach here, digestion, digested, and differences in stomach. So it is consistent throughout the paragraph that the main difference that they are focusing on is the differences in the stomach structure. making the answer B as the correct one. Okay, all right. The next type, we have the rhetorical purpose question, and this one asks you to identify the reason why the author mentions or includes or does something in their writing when they created the passage. So here the question asks, the author mentions the cow and the horse in paragraph 2 in order to what? Okay, so what you need to do, find these words, scan for the word cow and horse, and then skim the context or the surrounding sentences to try to draw a logical conclusion why the author mentions or provides the information. Okay, go ahead and answer the question. Okay, finished? Are you ready to check if your answer is right or wrong? Let's see. So, as I mentioned, the first step to answering this question is to find the location of cow and horse in the passage. And in this case, it's already been specified that it's in paragraph 2. So what you need to do is scan in paragraph 2 and you will find it here, for example, right? Now, once you have found it, you can then read the context, read the surrounding sentences, and try to draw a conclusion. Imagine if you were the author, why would you mention these words? And here, if you read it carefully, the author mentions horse and cow here to explain in a more similar illustration, sorry, not similar, I mean familiar illustration to the readers, right? If you are a general reader, you would probably not be, what is that? Well-versed or well-informed about non-ruminants or ruminants, because those are quite academic and specific terminology for certain subject, in this case, perhaps biology. That's why the author mentions horse and cow so that you can then imagine the concepts in a more familiar context, right? So that means the answer is Charlie or C. To illustrate differences between ruminants and non-ruminants through the use of familiar animals. Did you get the answer correctly? If you don't worry, keep on practicing. Okay, moving on to vocabulary questions. And this one is pretty straightforward, as we discussed when we talk about the strategy. So what you need to do is to simply answering it. Okay, to simply answer it. If you know, if you happen to be familiar or know the meaning of the word. Now, if you have no idea what the word means, then pay attention to the word form. So illusory, remember, a word ending Y is usually an adjective. So you can eliminate words that are not adjectives. Now, in some cases, you will find that all of the options will be can be in the same form. So you can then move on to the next strategy, which is to guess the meaning of the word from the context or surrounding sentences. All right. So before I tell you what the answer is, go ahead and try to answer it yourself. Are you ready to find out? Let's see. So here, imagine that we don't know what illusory means. And the word form is also the same with all of the options. So we have to go with the last strategy, which is to guess from the context. Now, if you read the parts around illusory, then you will see that they all appear to be living on the same diet. Okay, so these herbivores appear or seems to be living on the same diet or eating the same food, right? Now, the next sentence where the word is located says disappearance, however, so however is a signal word for contrast. Okay, so this is so this is something that is contrast with this information. So here it looks like they are eating the same diet or the same food, but that is illusory. So it looks like they do something, but that is not, may not true, right? So that's the logical sense of the context or the sentence. So that means illusory is going to be exceptional. Okay. Okay, sorry, I was mistaken. It was not exceptional, but misleading. All right, so it's something contrast here. It seems like so, but then it's not so. So it's misleading. Okay, so that's a vocabulary question. The next one is sentence simplification. Remember, you have to choose from the options which conveys the same information without using the same words as the highlighted or the underlined sentence or part in the passage. So the strategies for this, don't forget, define the highlighted sentence to its simpler forms. And then once they have been simplified, you will be able to compare them more easily and simply with the options. Okay, now go ahead and try to answer the question by applying the strategies. You ready to check your answer? Let's see. So to answer this, let's try to simplify the underlined sentences in the paragraph first. So if you break down these complex sentences, you'll see that there are three kind of key ideas from the sentence. The first one is Fuller's early theatrical career had included stints as an actress, right? And then, well, yeah, this is based on the first part of the sentence. Okay, Fuller's early theatrical career had included stints as an actress. Now, the second one says she was not interested in storytelling or expressing emotions through dance. And the third one says the drama of her dancing emanated from her visual effects. Now, if after you simplify the sentence into these simpler forms, then you will be able to check it with the options. And here you can see that A over here, more interested, not interested. So Fuller was more interested in dances, visual impact. She was not interested in storytelling. She was, what is that? Um, she was more interested in dance's visual impact than in its narrative. Now, here, more interested can be paraphrased or restated using different structure. Okay, now visual impact is in line with the part over here. The drama of her dancing emanated from her visual effects. So, uh, so she was more interested in dance's visual impact. That's her. That's what she's interested in more than the narrative. Now, narrative is a restatement or a different word for storytelling, right? So that means the sentence in the option that best represent uh, the key information from this sentence is A, because all of the key information is presented there with different words and simpler, sorry, forms. Okay, let's continue with insert text question. You can get up to one question per passage for this. So the strategy is, don't forget that the connecting words in the bold sentence will be able to help you identify the best place among the options. I'll give you time. You can pause the video as usual if you'd like to try to answer it. All right, let's check your answer. So here, the connecting words would be the sequence and body size. So remember, when connecting words are usually in the beginning, and sometimes there can also be a clue in the later part in the sentence. And use these connecting words to see the connection between the sentence and the sentences before and after the sentence where you want to put it, right? So here we can see that the sequence is talking about a set, right? A set order. And that is in line with the previous sentence in the D position. So making D a very potential answer to be correct. And the next connecting words here are body size. So the sentence after this will likely discuss body size, and that is in line with the following question for the place D. Okay, so those connecting words making option D the best place to put this sentence. Okay, continue with the next one. Prose summary, the last questions usually for every passage. So don't forget the strategy for this one is, excuse me. Okay. So the strategy for this type of question is to eliminate false, minor, and unpresented points. So remember that from the 6 options you get, you will only need to choose 3. And the other 3 options or points will be either something wrong, something too small or narrow in scope of discussion or ideas, and something that is simply not explained or given in the passage. So be careful with these 3 types of points. Okay, now let's see the passage so that you can so that you can practice answering the question. Okay, so let's see where the passage is. All right, for this practice, let's practice identifying the false, minor, and unpresented points from the options. Okay, so try to skim or read for the gist in the choices here and try to identify which seems to be false or minor or unpresented points. Okay. All right, now let's check your guesses. So from these options or choices, you can see that the false information would be the survival of East African mammals depends more than anything else on the quantity of highly nutritious fruits that they are able to find. So this is false information because it's not um, it's not according to the passage. All right, it's not the case. It's not true. Now, C over here is true, but it's something that has a narrow scope, something that is not as important that it will be impactful for the whole passage. And F over here is also wrong, okay, because it is not hard to establish. If you remember from our discussion from the previous questions, they follow a certain pattern to migrate, which is the place where they can find their foods. Okay, so that's incorrect. Now, the first major point or important points would be B. On herbivore, size and metabolic rate affect the kinds of food, the quantities of food it needs to eat. And then the different stomachs, remember, ruminants and non-ruminants will also affect that. And the habits of migration is based on their feeding preferences, as I mentioned when we talked about F. So that's prose summary. Now, what about the fill in a table question? This question may also appear at the end of the passage, and it's always worth more than 1 point. The strategy for this one is similar to some other types, which is the triple S strategy. So you need to check each of them and make sure that they are in the right classification based on what is being asked from the question. Okay, so here is the passage for you to try to answer. And for this type of question, because it's worth more than 1 point, you can spend more time to answer it, of course. So that's why if you need more time, you can pause the video and try to answer the question. Okay, are you ready to check your answers? Let's see. So the answers here are going to be A, E, F for the constructive processes and C and G for the destructive processes. Now, remember the strategy is the triple S. Select the keyword from the options. So here, A, the option is, oh yeah, this is talking about constructive and destructive processes. So you can find what they mean so that you can understand what to find, what to look for from this part. Now, once you know what constructive and destructive processes mean, you can then try to triple as all of the options here to make sure they are in the right category. So starting with the first one, A, collision is the keyword, and you will find it over here, collision. And based on the information here, collision is considered as constructive processes. And then separation of continents over here is not exactly it's not exactly either a constructive process or destructive process. Now, the wind-driven sand located in this part is described as a destructive process because you can see the word bombard. All right, bombard means to destroy something, and that is something destructive, of course. And then the formation of grass roots in soil. So here, it's not described or it doesn't fit the description of either of the processes. Earthquakes explained over here, they are raised, making it something constructive because it's raised. And then volcanic activity over here, form, right? So form is something from non into creation, so something that is constructed, making it in the category of constructive processes. And then the last one as is the weather processes found over here. So the weather is the main agent of erosion. So erosion is when uh, uh, a terrain or like a rock is eroding and it loses its form gradually into uh, nothingness, right? So that makes it something destructive. Therefore, the answer is as seen on the screen. And that would be our lesson for the sample questions and practice. I'll see you in the next one.